Hello y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Tay the Nurse Bay, back at it with another video. So yes, it has been a minute since I've seen you guys, and yes, we are back on track finally. So welcome to my channel. If you have not subscribed yet, press that subscribe button and make sure you like this video. So today, as you can see, because I'm all professional looking, we are going to be discussing interview tips. I'm gonna go over some sample questions and just get you prepared to get that job, okay? So please tune in if you would like, and I hope this helps. First, let's talk about apparel. So I would suggest that no jeans, no t-shirts, nothing like that. You need to come in looking very professional, especially like depending on where your interview is, the style of like the job you're trying to get hired to. Make sure you're wearing either dress pants for the fellas. I would not say khakis or anything like that, like dress pants. And for the females, dress pants also. I mean, if you want to wear a skirt, that's your style. It's not my style. So I would wear like dress pants, definitely no jeans. I know a lot of people who went to an interview with black jeans, although like they kind of can be on the professional side, I would still say no. And also top wise, make sure you're covered. We don't want to see any cleavage. That's not professional. Make sure like the color, like nothing too flamboyant. I would say like more neutral colors. And I always throw a sweater on top of things just because that's just me. But yeah, like you can look up on Google like things to wear for an interview. But big no-no is no jeans, no sneakers, no t-shirts. Big no-no. For the women, makeup wise, try to stay neutral. No like bright color eyeshadow or anything like that. Just keep it very neutral and relaxed. Hair wise, just make sure your hair is neat. It's, you know, harder for our color folks, you know, but just make sure your hair is neat. Like I've heard a lot of things about locks, like it's not professional and all that, but like, what's wrong with this? You can make anything professional. So any hairstyle is fine. I know I change my hair a lot. Like I could be wearing a wig one day. I could be having my locks one day. Like I could be having braids one day. Like, but anything that's neat and everything should be fine. A lot of interviews now have been like virtual. So hopefully this helps for virtual and for in-person. I know where a lot of us are like transitioning back into in-person interviews. So this should help for both. For virtual, obviously the top half of your body is only going to be shown. So whatever you wear on your bottom is your business. But for in-person, take my recommendations for that. Also for virtual interviews, make sure like your background is appropriate. Like this is fine, like your calendar and things like that. Make sure there's like no garbage and like laundry and stuff in your background. Just be aware of like what the camera is going to be seeing when it's virtual. Also during virtual interviews, make sure you're having eye contact with the person, not constantly looking down, even though like you should have your notes, you know, readily available if you need to, which is also a plus side of a virtual interview because you can have your little cheat sheet and everything like that. But when it's in person, it's a little more challenging and you have to prepare yourself a little bit more. So let's get into a couple questions that they would normally ask. And the number one question they always usually start with is tell me about yourself. So for this question, I have my notes here too. So tell me about yourself. Normally I would obviously say my name, where I went to school, just a little bit about like my program. I would say like I'm a people person, I'm bubbly, I love talking, I have big personality, I'm very creative. I would say like give off some good stuff about yourself. I also talk about like what I like to do. Like I like to work out, I like to, you know, draw or whatever the case may be. Talk about things like that. That question is very broad. You can really say anything. They just want to hear like positive things about you. Another question they ask a lot is your strengths and weaknesses. Now, this can kind of be like a trick question. Your strengths are usually easier to give, but when you're talking about your weaknesses, they really do pay attention to what you say. So my biggest tip is try to turn your weakness into a positive. One of the things that I usually say for a weakness, I would say that one of my weaknesses is that I have a very big heart, and a lot of times I engulf myself in other people's needs and trying to help other people, and sometimes I neglect my own, which is very important because in order to take care of in order to take care of others, I need to take care of myself. So you can always gear that question to what you're interviewing for, but as a nurse, that's usually, a good one to use. Another question that is similar to that question that they ask a lot is, name a time you made a mistake and what you learned from it. So obviously you wouldn't say like a big mistake, like something detrimental that happened to you, even though like that might be an experience and that you learned from. That's not appropriate for a job interview. So you should say something like, maybe you missed a deadline for something and you put in too much time doing another task that was due instead of, dividing your time. So make sure you emphasize what specifically you learned from it. So you learned organization, you learned prioritization, things like that. A lot of times they also give scenarios and ask how you would handle those scenarios. Obviously, I can't really give you an example of that. Well, actually I can. Let me think. Do I have one of those on here? No, I don't, but they give scenarios and say, like, depending on what you're interviewing, say you're going to a nursing interview, they'll ask you like, a patient's family came in and they're screaming and yelling at you about something the nurse on the previous shift did. How would you handle that? So, always, whenever you answer those questions, always react calmly, always either try to solve the problem, always apologize for how they perceived what was happening, and, bring it further like to the nurse manager or a manager in general, and try to get them answers and the help that they need to feel more secure. Here are some other questions that you may possibly hear during an interview. So I said, tell me about yourself already. What are your strengths and weaknesses? How do you deal with stress? Why should we choose you out of all applicants? Why should we hire you? What are you looking for in this job? And with those questions, make sure that you emphasize the fact that it's an investment to hire you and to train you, and you feel like you are worth that investment. Make sure you emphasize that you are, dedicated, responsible, and that you feel like you can increase the morale of the unit or the place that you're in. Make sure that you emphasize that you will advocate for your job and the people that you work for. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? When I had that question, I made sure that it kind of pertained to the hospital that I was interviewing for. What made you pick this field? Why did you pick this hospital versus other hospitals or wherever you're interviewing for? What makes you so compassionate about this? How do you work? How do you feel like working in a team is beneficial? How do you handle emergencies? They might ask you questions about difficult coworkers. At the end, they usually ask you if you have any questions. I cannot emphasize this enough. Make sure you ask questions. And let me tell you, a lot of times that part of the interview may make you stand out compared to other applicants. So before the interview, you should already have looked at their mission statement, their goals, things like that, so that you can ask questions based on that. So for example, if you're applying to, this is mostly for nurses, but if you are applying to a hospital that has magnet status for nurses, you should be asking, saying something like, I noticed on your website that the hospital has received multiple magnet status for nurses, which is, if you don't know, magnet status is nurse excellence and leadership for quality of care. So you can ask something like, how does that impact the way you hire nurses, or what specific qualities are you looking for in a nurse to uphold those standards? That's a good question to ask. Another question to ask for it doesn't have to be a nurse, anyone, would be, what are some challenges that I might face in this position? Make sure you have 2 copies of your resume. Make sure you have a portfolio, like a nice black portfolio, or even just like a regular folder, which is fine, but I usually carry like a all black portfolio. Make sure you have a pen and not too big of a bag, but like a bag. So I hope this video has helped you in some kind of way. Make sure you prepare for your interview. Make sure you come in looking confident. Make sure you come in smiling with a good, positive attitude. Come in like you already got the job. So I'm rooting for you. I'm so happy that you tuned into my channel. I really, 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 really hope you get this job. Until next time, Taylor Nurse Bay is out. Bye.